After just 1 year in space, astronaut Scott Kelly returned to Earth and could not walk properly. His bones had weakened, his muscles had shrunk, and his eyes had permanently changed shape. Astronauts returning from 6 months on the International Space Station lose up to 20% of their muscle mass, up to 10% of their bone density, and their hearts literally shrink in size. So what actually happens to a human body if it spends not 6 months, but an entire lifetime in zero gravity? And can the damage ever be reversed? I remember reading Scott Kelly's account of his first steps back on Earth after 340 days in space. He described the feeling of his own body weight as almost unbearable, like being crushed by something he had forgotten existed. Every human who has ever been to space describes the same experience. The first few days feel magical, floating freely, but within weeks the body begins fighting back against the environment it was never designed to live in. In 2026, with plans for missions to Mars lasting up to 3 years, NASA's published research on what happens to the human body in zero gravity has become one of the most urgent medical questions in the history of spaceflight. Today, the real documented medical science from over 20 years of ISS research will show you exactly what zero gravity does to every system in the human body, including bones, muscles, heart, brain, eyes, and immune system. What the headlines are not telling you is that NASA's own medical teams have formally identified at least 6 major physiological threats to humans on a Mars mission, and none of them are fully solved yet. Welcome back to Tomorrow's Science. Let's dive in. Without the constant mechanical stress of gravity pressing down on them, bones stop maintaining their density. Astronauts lose between 1 and 2% of bone mass every single month, a rate 10 times faster than the most severe osteoporosis on Earth. On Earth, bone cells called osteoblasts constantly rebuild bone, while osteoclasts break it down. In zero gravity, this balance collapses, with breakdown dramatically outpacing rebuilding, because the mechanical signals that trigger bone maintenance simply disappear. After a lifetime in zero gravity, the bones would become so fragile that returning to any gravitational environment, even the moon's weaker 1/6 gravity, could cause spontaneous fractures from movements as simple as standing up. In zero gravity, the legs, back, and core muscles, which spend every waking moment on Earth fighting gravity, have no work to do and begin disappearing within weeks. Astronauts can lose up to 20% of their total muscle mass in just 6 months. ISS astronauts exercise for 2 hours every single day using specialized resistance machines. Even with this intense routine, they still lose significant muscle mass, demonstrating how powerful the effect of weightlessness is on the human body. Long-duration studies show that the type of muscle fibers themselves change in space. Slow endurance fibers convert to faster fatiguing ones, altering the fundamental character of the muscles even after recovery on return to Earth. On Earth, the heart works constantly to pump blood upward against gravity. In space, there is no up or down. The heart's workload drops dramatically, and like any underused muscle, it begins to shrink, losing up to 10% of its mass. Without gravity pulling blood downward, approximately 2 liters of fluid shift from the legs toward the chest and head within the first days of weightlessness. This causes the characteristic puffy face of astronauts and reduces blood volume in the legs. NASA medical data shows an increased risk of cardiac arrhythmias, or irregular heartbeats, during long-duration spaceflight. This risk would become far more dangerous over a lifetime in zero gravity, with no immediate access to emergency care. NASA discovered a previously unknown medical condition called VIIP Syndrome. Fluid shifting toward the head increases pressure inside the skull, which compresses the eyeballs from behind, flattening them and changing vision. NASA reports that approximately 70% of astronauts on long-duration missions show some degree of visual impairment, making this one of the most significant medical challenges in human spaceflight. A 2019 study in the New England Journal of Medicine showed that long-duration spaceflight causes measurable changes in brain structure. The brain shifts upward inside the skull and shows alterations that can persist after returning to Earth. A 2022 study found that the human body destroys red blood cells 54% faster in space than on Earth, a condition now called space anemia, reducing the blood's ability to carry oxygen. Research also shows that spaceflight suppresses multiple parts of the immune system, making astronauts more vulnerable to infections and allowing dormant viruses to reactivate. Studies of space crews show that latent viruses, normally kept under control on Earth, reactivate in many astronauts during long missions due to immune suppression. The inner ear system that tells the brain which way is up becomes confused in zero gravity, causing severe motion sickness in up to 80% of astronauts during their first days in space. Over time, the brain rewires itself to function without gravity. When astronauts return to Earth, they must relearn basic balance and movement all over again. Fluid shifting toward the head also causes constant nasal congestion, reducing taste and smell, making food seem bland, like having a permanent cold. Astronauts on the ISS experience 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24 hours, disrupting natural body rhythms and leading to chronic sleep problems and reduced mental performance. NASA research identifies isolation and confinement as major psychological challenges, with astronauts experiencing stress, monotony, and drops in morale during long missions. Studies show measurable declines in cognitive speed and accuracy during long-duration missions, caused by sleep disruption, isolation, and changes in the brain. One proposed solution is artificial gravity, created by rotating spacecraft to simulate gravity, but this has not yet been tested in a full human mission. NASA acknowledges that several major health risks of long-duration spaceflight still do not have fully proven solutions. The human body is the most sophisticated biological system we know, shaped by billions of years under gravity, making life in zero gravity extremely difficult for long-term survival. Now I want to hear your answer. Knowing what zero gravity does to the human body, do you think humans can ever truly live in space, or will Earth always be our natural home? Leave your answer in the comments and subscribe to Tomorrow's Science for more deep dives into the science of our universe.